truths at once. The deep sorrow of losing Faith Winter and the profound gift of having been loved by her. Looking at this crowd, I see people from every chapter of her life. Her family, her colleagues, neighbors, advocates and organizers, mentees, former staff, elected officials, young leaders stepping into power, women she pushed toward the microphone and onto the ballot. Here we see people she fought for, people she fought with, people she laughed with, believed in, lifted up, and stood beside. We are a cross-section of the Colorado she helped shape and the Colorado that helped shape her. To her children, Tobin and Sienna, I hope the sight of all these faces brings you some small comfort today. Every person here is a reflection of your mom's love, the community she built, the people she lifted, the change she made real in this world. Her courage and her fire, you can feel it in this space. We gather not only to grieve her, but to honor her, to remember her, to speak her name with love, and to celebrate the life and legacy of Senator Faith Winter. As we hold Faith's memory together, we also acknowledge the spaces where she led, where she legislated with courage, where she shifted what was possible, and the leaders who walked beside her in that work. Colorado's response today is not just personal, it is historic. We are joined by many who served with Faith, who negotiated, collaborated, disagreed, rebuilt, and moved this state forward with her. Among them is someone who worked alongside her at the highest level, through policy battles, through climate and transportation fights, through the work of building a more equitable Colorado piece by piece. To share his reflections on Faith's legacy and to mark the mark she leaves on the state she loved, it is my honor to welcome Colorado's Governor, Jared Polis.
I don't think any of us thought we'd have to be here today in this capacity, in this way. Of course, all of our hearts go out to her friends and family, of course, Sienna and Tobin, Mark, Matt, the entire family. I hope that this celebration serves to comfort those that are suffering from this loss, to know how much Faith was loved by those she knew, by those she worked with throughout her life. We all had to go through our closets to find orange. I found a little bit here. It was hard. You know, like all of you, we were so devastated to hear about Faith's passing. I just couldn't believe on Thanksgiving Eve when I got the call from our Director of Public Safety and my Chief of Staff. None of us could believe it. We all thought, no, it's got to be something else. I also wanted to bring condolences personally from Lieutenant Governor Diane Primavera, who is also very close to Faith. She's out of state for a meeting of lieutenant governors, but she wanted me to share her memories of spending long hours campaigning with Senator Winter when the two were running for office together in overlapping districts, and she remembers wearing through her tennis shoe after tennis shoe while Senator Winter's trusty flip-flops kept pace every step of the way. And she wanted me to share that story. As a public servant, and I got to know and knew Faith for close to 20 years, Adams County Dems and environmental nonprofit work before I was in Congress, before she was in elected office. But as a public servant, she cared so deeply for the Colorado we love, so deeply for Colorado's most vulnerable. She was kind and also tough in fighting for her people, her district, and our state. I had the opportunity to work with her on many issues over the years, and her moral compass was always to do right by her constituents with her value-centered approach, help make our state stronger. She knew that our state could be a better place, and she focused tirelessly on making it so. When Faith was on your team, she was a fierce ally, 100% committed to the cause, and effective. Faith will always be remembered as a champion of Colorado families, of elevating women into positions of power, and for our climate, our environment, our way of life. She was instrumental in passing and implementing so many great initiatives that benefit Coloradans today: paid family leave, landmark transportation and transit progress, connecting transit and housing affordability, and of course, her other professional work to lift up hundreds of women, not just here in Colorado, but nationally, into public office across these United States. I first got to know her as an organizer for environmental causes, and even before her time in public office, Faith's passion and dedication for building a brighter Colorado future and a brighter future for our country really shone bright. And Faith always made time to connect with people, to find ways to brighten every day with fresh flowers, her beloved dogs, spreading joy around the Capitol, even during difficult times in this building. Alongside her relentless pursuit of affordable and sustainable and bright future for everyone, Faith was a loving and dedicated mother. And I had the privilege of just a couple weeks ago spending a little time with Sienna when she came in for a class project, and it was so clear from that interaction and her insightful questions, just the great care that Faith took in raising a wonderful daughter, wonderful children, Sienna and Tobin. I remember when we had Nancy Pelosi out for the Highway 36 project. Faith was with a almost newborn Sienna, just a couple months old, and Nancy Pelosi got to hold her. I know both of you, Tobin and Sienna, will honor your mother's legacy of fearlessness and of giving back. And Faith's presence will be missed, but her legacy and impact lives in all of us. It lives strongly in you, and it lives on in the state of Colorado. I have to present to each of you a proclamation that we've prepared on behalf of the state of Colorado, remembering and memorializing the life of Faith Winter and flags that have flown over the state capitol, and I will present those to you now.
Could we also have President Coleman and Speaker McCluskey? They'll be presenting flags to Faith's father, Michael Winter, and his sister, Dawn Stevens. Thank you both so much. We now turn to Faith's impact beyond Colorado, reflecting on her national voice, her reach, and the movement she helped grow. Please welcome the founding director of Paid Leave for All, Dawn Huckelbridge.
Thank you, Danielle. So I am here today to speak for myself, to speak for Paid Leave for All, which is the national campaign of the organizations fighting for paid leave for every working person in this country. Many of our partners are here today. Faith was a champion and our friend. I'm also here to speak for Erin Velarde, who is a dear friend to Faith and who wanted to be here but can't, and she asked if I would read her remarks. Am I going to mess it up if I do this? Okay. Faith was a queen among peers. I was so lucky to call her my friend and to work alongside her for the last 20 years. First at the White House Project and then at Vote Run Lead. One of her happiest places was in the front of a room full of ambitious women, teaching them how to be powerful, how to run for office, and how to win. There are thousands of women and a few good men who were lucky enough to be sitting in those rooms. So many of them now serve in public office because her training and her brilliance were nothing short of transformational. She helped you unleash the fire in your belly. She helped you see your own story as powerful and profound. She helped so many of us draw strength from the challenges we faced. And she modeled how connecting her personal values with her political leadership was a superpower for serving others. She gave the best field advice, assuring women with smaller financial means that their community was all the wealth they needed, and she was right. We were nerds for women's leadership together, from convention halls to community centers to kitchen tables. If there were a group of women who wanted to run for office, we were there. I could always count on Faith to get on a plane, make her way to a rural town, or jump online to give so generously of herself as a woman who walked the walk every day. And I could count on her as a friend. She was never more than a phone call away, ready to give counsel and maybe some tough love. Today, I think she'd probably say something like, "We can do hard things." We had just spent a few days in DC working on something new together, mapping out a plan to support elected women like herself. There we were, 20 years after starting out, 4 kids between us, hundreds of trainings and thousands of women coached by Faith who had run for office. We'd seen 2 women presidential nominees, and we were still excited about the power of what's possible. Still nerds for women's leadership. We told each other we loved each other, and we went toe-to-toe on the details of a program, challenging ourselves to make it the best we could. Her passion for the power of women to make the world a better place will echo through our country for generations. I'm so grateful to have had that time with her and to carry her wisdom forward. Her legacy lives on, and after we've had our time to mourn, we will let her legacy be our motivation. Let us all carry Faith with us forever. And on my behalf, there's a crack down here, be warned for future speakers. I knew Faith since what feels like the beginning of my career. Like many of you, I knew her through different facets of her work in life. As an organizer, as a trainer, a candidate, a mother, a partner, an extraordinary leader and public servant, and most of all, a friend. I know that you here don't need me to tell you how much she supported and loved her friends, or how much her love for you, Sienna and Tobin, radiated from everything that she did. I know that many of you here have known her best, so I don't need to repeat her long resume, her long list of accomplishments. But especially for those who may be listening who didn't know her as well, I would like to share what moved me most about her. It was not just what she did, but the way in which she did it. Those were the ways that also made me a better person and those around her. Over the years that I've known Faith, I've watched her move mountains to win, to make positive change in Colorado. From climate to transportation, to housing, to paid leave, to mentoring and training other leaders, the body of work she leaves behind is overwhelming. Someone noted this week, I don't have a fact checker on me, but that she moved some 240 bills to laws in her career. And as someone else noted, she felt compelled to. She felt a duty to win for the people. She didn't shy from her accomplishments, but frankly, she didn't demand a lot of attention or thanks for them either, because she did them for the right reasons. In a world where a lot of people have great ideas and less people have follow through, Faith always put in the work. She was always working, always moving, always bringing family and friends and her dogs along. She was often inviting people into the State House. I know we had a few lucky invites, or bringing her world into yours. Faith survived so much, but this week I have been thinking about how she lived. She didn't just win paid leave in Colorado. She won it after fight after fight, after introducing it, after flipping the Senate, and then taking it to the ballot for the very first time in this country, ignoring every naysayer and winning. P.S. winning even in Trump counties, where it is now used most. She didn't just take down a predator in the State House. She did it when she realized that he was targeting other women, younger and vulnerable women, and she acknowledged that she was inviting attacks and retaliation. But as she said, if I could make sure not one other person experienced harassment by this individual, then it was worth it. As I've shared often to friends, when she won Governing Magazine's Public Official of the Year award, she could have brought along a table full of donors and corporate sponsors. She instead brought her daughter, and she invited me and other women advocates for issues she cared about. I could call her for anything, and she always picked up. She always listened. She always lent a hand, not just in a gesture, not just to make the motions or be polite. She saw it through. Thanksgiving morning, after I got the phone call that she was gone, I was signed up to do a turkey trot with my son. I never thought about canceling, because I didn't think she'd be very impressed with that. I wrote "For Faith" on my hands, as many of us did in 2018, and I made my son and the poor kid he was running with go without stopping, go to the finish and sprint through the tape. I told him all about her. As many of you know, I'm sure, Faith had a tattoo on her arm, a small stick of dynamite, a reminder of her power. She may not have been the tallest among us, but her passion was never small. And God knows she always found a way to make a spark. Her impact on her state and this country and every one of us was immeasurable. It's a legacy that will grow over so many generations. And her family, and those of us carrying on her work, in Colorado residents whose rent will not be raised, and every mother who can stay in the NICU now with her newborn baby, every person who holds on to their job after an injury or diagnosis, every son and daughter who can be with their parents as they pass. She never gave up. And if we ever manage to pass paid leave in this country, I will be thinking of her when we do. And I will miss my friend. For Faith.
Thank you, Dawn. We now invite another Dawn who mattered so much to Faith, her beloved sister, Dawn Stevens, to share some remarks.
Thank you all for coming on today, and I'm going to try to stay as close as I can to the script, but you know, there is so many more things that I need to say because she brought everybody here today, and this is our community, and this is just how we have been able to get through the past week, coming together as a community. And so I just wanted to share some childhood stories. So when my parents were first married, they wanted to have kids. And thank God they did, because I worked at the homeless shelter for 14 and a half years. She ran so much and she brought so much of the community together. And my parents needed to have that faith. And that's why she is the faith of they needed to name her faith because they needed to have the faith to go on. But then their second daughter came along named Dawn, and I am the dawn of the new day. And every new day is a new day, and every day is a new day to carry on new promises. But another funny thing I want to just talk about. Faith and I were just such little brats when we were kids, and we were so afraid that my mom would get so angry with us because we thought that it was a great idea to play surfing on our ironing board. It sounds like a horrible idea, but we thought that it was great. And then we got to the ironing board, and we were surfing on it. And we were thinking that we were so cool. No, we weren't. We had accidentally bent some of the blades on the ironing board, but we knew that we needed to get a new one so that my mom wouldn't be so mad. And so we walked up to the neighborhood grocery store, and we're like, let's go ahead and see if we can get one for $4.50, because that's all the change that we could find through the couch cushions and everything like that. We just knew that that was going to be able to happen. It wasn't. And so, but that's the kind of thing that we did together as kids. And one of the last memories I remember of her, we went to a concert the night or the week before she went to college. She went to California at the University of Redlands, and we actually went to a concert of Eli Cherry. And I'm going to just quote a little bit of the song. Save tonight, fight the break of dawn, come tomorrow, tomorrow I'll be gone. That has created so many more memories, because now Faith is no longer with us physically, but she has so much power that we'll be able to carry on. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Dawn. Sorry. Now we will have someone who has walked along faith for so many seasons, all the way back from high school. Her friend, Jessica Walker.
Hi, I'm Faith's friend Jess. My role today is not to recognize her achievements as a public servant, of which there are many. My role is to shed light on the person she was, honor her light, her life, and maybe even add a little bit of levity to a really difficult time in our lives. I've done a lot of life with Faith, 31 years. High school, first jobs, elections, weddings, celebrations, funerals, vacations. We've laughed and we've cried, but mostly we've laughed. Faith and I met in high school, in algebra. We were sitting next to each other, and she reached across the aisle and offered me a stick of Wrigley's spearmint gum. I took it. By the end of the year, we were still sitting next to each other. She was doing significantly better in the class than I was, and the last several pages of my notebook were filled with what we called faithisms, things she said that made us laugh, often uncontrollably. One of my favorite things about Faith was her infectious laugh. She laughed with her whole body, and I wish I still had that notebook. Her simple act of reaching across the aisle to offer me a stick of gum sparked a lifelong friendship. And I now know that reaching across the aisle with a gesture of kindness and friendship was not just telling of who she was at her core, but foreshadowing. Our friendship grew and we became inseparable. We took most of our classes together, and yes, they were honors and AP. We joined the same clubs. who went on an absolute tear, taking leadership positions across various student activities. So I think that actually means she won her first election in 1995, if anyone here is keeping tabs. We went to dances and actually danced. She cheered at my swim meets, and I did the same at her tennis matches. We went on a senior class trip, roomed together, and even managed to stay out past curfew a few times. We were happy, giggly, mildly rebellious. Faith was magnetic. She was bringing people together and organizing well before she ever did it professionally. She managed to organize and amass enough votes to get our friends elected to every dance royalty court from junior to senior year. She was our prom princess. Faith always wanted me to tell that story at one of her events. I just didn't think it'd be this one. The belief that she could make a difference and impact change has always been a part of who she is. She saw potential in everyone and everything, even me. She was fearless, kind, and genuine. She was one of one. And Faith knew the importance of showing up. She always showed up, impossible schedule and all. She wasn't worried about a meal coming out perfectly or if the house was a mess. She was most concerned with being there for her friends and her family, making sure that everyone had a place, everyone felt safe, everyone felt welcome, everyone felt seen and heard, and everyone left with a full belly and a sense of knowing that you mattered, you belonged. What I admire most about Faith was her authenticity and how she lived her life. It's easy to see that she made an outsized impact in her short time. But to me, it's not what she accomplished that's remarkable. It's how she accomplished it. Empathy, humility, inclusivity, altruism. It was never about her. She was selfless. Kindness was her North Star. And life for Faith was not always easy, but she was undeterred. She believed in hard work. She had grit and perseverance. Her resilience should be studied. We actually didn't talk much about politics or our work in general, but I often asked her how she survived life in the public eye. She always said, "You don't need thick skin, you just need resilient skin." And I'll always remember that. She never took herself too seriously. She hiked in flip-flops. She loved the show Parks and Rec, was a Kesha stan, and could sing along to Taylor Swift's entire catalog. She made incredible green chili, and I do have the recipe. And I only heard her use the word hate once. It was in reference to jeans. She didn't own a pair. She preferred dresses and living her life in color. When I moved back to Denver as an adult, I didn't know anyone except for Faith. In what felt like minutes, she connected me with an incredible group of women who are here today. That was Faith. She was the connector, and often the glue that kept us all together. And I think that's why a lot of us feel shattered. Tobin and Sienna, she loved you. She loved the people you are becoming. She loved your passion. She loved your kindness, your curiosity, and your grit. She loved that you challenged her and that you held your own beliefs. She was proud. She loved you for you, and she knew you loved her back. And we are grateful to you both because you shared her so generously with us. Thank you. So Faith fought hard for the people she loved and the things she believed in, including her own life. And it seems really unfair that it's ended. My hope for her is that she is resting in peace and that how she lived her life continues to inspire and guide us. She shaped a lot of policy, but perhaps most importantly, she shaped all of us. So until we meet again, sweet friend, thank you for all of it. I love you.
Thank you, Jess. That was really beautiful. As mentioned, there are many ways people knew Faith. As a senator, a colleague, a friend, a champion for justice. But the truest, most profound role she carried was that as mother. The center of her world, her reason for courage, and her soft place to land. It is an act of immense courage to speak today, to hold grief and love in the same breath. Sienna is choosing to do that in front of all of us. It is with deep respect and love that I ask you to join me in welcoming Faith's daughter, Sienna Snook.
Thank you all for coming out today. When I was little, my mom would sing, "You are my sunshine to me," before I fell asleep every night. I like to think that that was the reason that she hated the code. I, Sienna Snook, had the honor of having Faith Winter as my mother. My mother had struggles, but that is not what I'd like to talk about today. Instead, I want to highlight all the good she has put out into the world. People say grief is love with nowhere to go. I believe this statement resonates deeply with who my mom was. My mom put so much love out into the world, which is why we feel her absence so strongly. She didn't need a reason to fight for others. She did because she knew that her voice was made for helping those who didn't have one. Before bed every night, she would read me a feminist story to show me to shoot for the moon. All of you with us today are here because my mom has made an impact on you and your life. She didn't believe in hate, only love. She would tell me that hate was just the absence of love, so the solution to hate is putting kindness out into the world. And she lived by that. Even when it would have been easier to hate, her love stretched far and wide. When I was a kid, she would tell me she loved me to the moon and back. Now it's just a little further. She's not a woman who would blend into the background. She stood out. Whether it was with her bright colors or simply the energy she brought into the room. She made her life much harder than it needed to be simply because she cared so much. If she wanted to speak without words, she could easily make just as much of an impact, whether it was with her facial expression or squeezing my hand 3 times to tell me that she loves me. She was relentless and resilient. When she was born, her feet were in the wrong direction, and she had many surgeries and had to fight to be able to walk, but she refused to give up because she knew she would be okay. She has been open about her traumatic brain injury and her pulmonary hypertension. Even while she was in the hospital, she always remained to keep a good attitude and still managed to make everyone in the room light up. Now, as I'm speaking on her life, I'm making it seem like she was perfect. She wasn't, but no one is, and she knew she wasn't. That's why when I was little, she taught me an important lesson. I got into my first argument with my parents, and she sat me down and taught me how to apologize. She told me that apologies weren't about me. They weren't something that I should use to make me feel better. They were about the other person, and you have to own up to your actions, don't make excuses, and show that you care. Then you have to act. My mother was an action and change maker. She didn't just say things for the sake of getting extra popularity. She only said things when she believed she could do something. She believed that she could do anything. I remember when she came home and told me she wanted to start a flower business. I didn't believe her and was being a teenager about it all, but she still pursued it nonetheless. Whenever someone said she couldn't do something, she wanted to do it even more. She lived by the phrase, "This is great, it will be fine." She would say that any time that someone doubted her. After school, to make us reflect on our days, she would tell me and my brother to do a rose, thorn, and a bud. One bad thing, one good thing, and one thing we look forward to. So today, since I can't share that with my mother, I will share it with you all. My rose is seeing all the love and energy throughout each and every one of you here. My thorn is that my mom isn't here to see how many people she impacted and touched. My bud is getting to live my life in honor of my mom. I specifically said in honor of and not for, because ever since I was born, my mom wanted us to find our own ways so that she didn't influence who we truly were, and that we got to find it for ourselves, so I live in honor. I love you, Mom. Thank you.
Sienna, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And to both you and Tobin, thank you so, so much for sharing your mom with all of us here. Faith believed in friendship the way she believed in organizing, fiercely, faithfully, and all in. She built bonds that did not break. This place is a testament to that. Two of the people who knew her laughter, her courage, and the everyday moments in her life are here to speak. Please welcome Representative Jenny Wilford and Hazel Gibson.
When I think about Faith, I think about a woman who moved through this world with fierce conviction and radical love. She believed in her heart and in her bones that women belong everywhere that decisions are being made, and she didn't quietly hold in that belief. She lived it through action, through organizing, and through lifting up other people. Her mantra was simple: lift as you rise. It meant that as you climb, you don't pull the ladder up behind you. You extend a hand and bring other people, other women up with you. Faith lived that every single day, and she didn't wait for the right moment or the perfect woman. She saw potential in people before they saw it in themselves, and she insisted that they rise too. One of her favorite stories, one that I've heard a million times, but one more time for good measure, was from her days when she was on Westminster City Council. She was the youngest woman and mom on the City Council. And as the board was reviewing applications for boards and commissions, one of the colleagues looked at an applicant and said, well, she's pregnant. She probably won't have time to serve. And of course, without missing a beat, Faith said, believe it or not, women are fully capable of using their bodies and their brains at the same time. Obviously, classic Faith, sharp, funny, unapologetic. Years later, when I was on city council myself and I had just had my second baby, I called her in a moment of panic about bringing my newborn to meetings and feeding her on the dais. I was worried about the optics and the judgment, and I was worried about not being taken seriously. And just like she always did, she listened and she dissolved the crisis and reminded me that children belong in every room where laws are made. She told me that I could care for my daughter and lead at the same time, body and brain, love and power. She believed it, she lived it, and she knew that all of us could do that too. You've heard that she was a huge champion for paid family leave. And I know that not because she ran the bill multiple times and then ran the campaign, but when I worked for her and I had my first child, we didn't have access to paid family leave, but she was determined. And so what she did was she worked her job and my job for 12 weeks to make sure that I got the time that I needed to take care of my newborn, because that's just what she did. She was Wonder Woman. But Faith wasn't just a mentor, a boss, or a colleague. She was one of my best friends. She was my person, and if a day passed that we didn't talk, something felt really off. She had an infectious personality and a magnetic moral compass that guided absolutely everything that she did. She showed up for people not just in big moments, but in small ones too. These are the moments that actually define somebody's life. We talked about everything. Talked about raising kids, camping hacks, how to keep toddlers from eating too many rocks because they were curious, and the art of getting everyone packed into a car with only a handful of meltdowns. And spoiler, it's all about the snacks. We shared the chaos and the beauty of motherhood together, and she was so incredibly proud of Tobin and Sienna. So proud of you too. Faith and I even ran a floral business together. She loved color, I preferred all the muted tones, and that's when we fought the most. So I was so happy to be able to make the flowers for her funeral today that are bursting with color. She loved Gerber daisies and sunflowers because they were bright and bold. They were cheerful blooms that matched her energies. The kind of flowers that don't shy away from the sun, they turn towards it just like she did. She loved to hike, she loved to camp, she loved exploring the outdoors. She found joy in simple things, dirt under her flip-flops, a trail with a view and bonus if there was water nearby, and a quiet place without cell phone service. Since she's passed, so many people have reached out and have asked me, what can I do? How can I help? How do we keep her legacy alive? And as I look out at all of you today, I know that you're not here by accident. You're here because she touched you in some way. Maybe she asked you to run for office. Maybe she trained you to run for office. Maybe you served with her or you worked with her in another capacity. Or maybe you were just simply inspired by how she showed up every day with courage and heart. So here's what you can do. Live her mantra. Lift as you rise. Ask a woman you know to run for office. Support her. Encourage her. Believe in her in the way that Faith believed in all of us. That is how we honor her. That is how we carry her forward. And that is how we literally keep Faith figuratively alive in this world. Rest in peace, my beautiful friend. I love you. I love you. Yes, you can.
My name is Hazel Gibson, and I am here today not as a colleague, not as someone who admired Faith from afar, but as someone who loved her as family. Faith wasn't just a senator to me. I met her when she trained me to run for office, and somewhere in the middle of campaign plans and strategy sessions, something shifted. Over the years, she became my friend, and then without either of us needing to say it, she became my family. We could finish each other's sentences. Our kids know each other. We went on vacations together. She was woven into the fabric of my life in a way that made the world feel less steadier, brighter, and more possible. Oh, God. Faith loved bright colors, especially orange, and of course she wore dresses every single day. What most people don't know is why. When she was on city council, she once took a vote she didn't believe in. She was wearing a suit that day because she thought that's what she was supposed to do. And afterward, she looked at herself and she made two promises: to never take a vote she didn't believe in, and to never wear an outfit she didn't want to. So every dress after that wasn't just a dress, it was a declaration. A reminder to herself and to everyone around her that authenticity is not optional. Faith dressed in joy and color and truth. She wore her convictions the way she wore orange, boldly without apology. She loved flowers, especially the kind that insisted on blooming in unlikely places. She loved green chili, pozole, Diet Dr. Pepper, cheese, gummy bears, and Skittles, although absolutely not the purple ones. She loved adventure, she loved wonder. She loved hiking, kayaking, warm sun on her face, and cheering for the Broncos, even when they made her question the meaning of hope. She loved the ocean, whale watching, and the horizon that made her feel both grounded and limitless. Faith loved fiercely. She loved her children, Tobin and Sienna, with a devotion that rearranged her entire world. She loved Matt's children, Theo and Ellie, with the same tender veracity, and her animals, Queso, Olive, Waffles, Peanut, and the newest little character, Pickles, were not pets, they were family. Her home was full of fur, laughter, chaos, and love, exactly as she wanted it. Even when pulmonary hypertension made hiking harder and kayaking less frequent, she never stopped seeking beauty. She never stopped choosing color or flowers or dresses or joy. She never stopped finding reasons to laugh, especially at herself, especially when life was absurd. She lived big, yes, but more than that, she lived bright. And she made the people she loved brighter too. Faith was the kind of friend that could look at you and understand what you needed before you spoke. The kind that would show up with snacks or flowers or a plan, or in the hospital, or a joke so ridiculous you had to laugh, even through tears. The kind who made ordinary moments unforgettable simply because she was in them. Losing her feels like losing a piece of my own heartbeat, but I know I'm not alone. Every person here carries their own version of her, their own moment of when she made them feel seen, loved, or brave. So this afternoon, I hope you remember her for the life she lived, not just the roles she held, for the hikes, for the kayaks, for the orange dresses, for the flowers she adored, for the animals underfoot, for the vacations shared, for the children she loved without limit, for the joy she insisted on, for the truth she promised herself to never abandon. Faith lived in full color, she loved in full color, and she leaves behind a world that will forever be more vibrant, more honest, and more beautiful because she was here. I love you forever, Faith. We love you forever, Faith. Rest in power. Thank you.
Now we turn to one of Faith's fellow legislators, a friend, and someone who worked closely with her through some of Colorado's hardest fights, Senator Lisa Cutter.
It's so wonderful to see so many people here to honor Faith Winter. I know that everyone can't speak today. We're outside, it's cold, and the sun sets early. I struggled with whether I should be one of the speakers. She had so many friends. I thought our friendship was special, but what I realized is that Faith made everyone feel that way. But our friendship was special, but so were the friendships she shared with Senator Michelson Janae, Senator Marchman, Representative Garcia, Representative Froelich, Senator Piola, and too many others to name. So many people loved her and learned from her. One of the reasons I ran for the legislature was to help uplift and pave the way for other women. And Faith had already been inspiring and supporting women for years, even though she was a number of years younger than I am. I will not be specific. She was too young to leave us, in fact, and someone asked me if I in any way felt that it was good that she was free of some of the health issues and hospital visits she'd had over the last several years. No, I do not. I know without a doubt that she would have persevered, continuing to kick ass and watch her children grow into the amazing adults they are destined to be. Faith led the way for so many of us. She focused on protecting the environment, working on transportation solutions, empowering women and girls, all marginalized people really, things that I care about too, and maybe that's why I felt a special kinship with her. Both inside and outside of the Capitol, she valued family, friendship, and connection. It can get very lonely in this place despite being surrounded by people. She always lifted me up and had my back no matter what she was going through herself. I could always count on Faith, and I know many of you feel the same. When you work so closely with people and rely on their friendship and partnership for months, it's kind of an abrupt disconnect to end the session and go back to your district. I always found that a bit difficult and was thankful that Faith strove to maintain our connection. We talked often, and she was always trying to cook up things for us to do in the interim. She invited the Women's Caucus to go pick sunflowers this summer at her favorite spot, Anderson Farms. Ironically, the growing season ended early because of the effects of climate change, and we didn't make it out there this year. We'd also talked about getting a bunch of us together to hold a soup making day. Maybe she would have made her a green chili. Making our favorite soups and sharing the recipes and tips with each other. Maybe Faith's soup-loving friends can still meet up and have that party. We can share some laughs and some memories while we cry in our soup together. She did so much to make the world a better place to be. And I know many people will speak about her legacy for years to come. But what I'm reflecting on right now is how she made my life better. She made me want to be a better legislator and a better friend. Everything I do this session will be in service of Faith's memory. I hope she knows how she changed people and how her legacy will live on in so many of us, including her beautiful children, Tobin and Sienna. Faith was so incredibly proud of them, and I admired how she involved them in her work and life in the legislature. She loved working with young people so much to pass bills and was an advisor for the Colorado Youth Advisory Council. It was clear that Faith really enjoyed helping young people understand government and feel like they could make a difference. My very first awareness of Faith was, in fact, from a young person she inspired, my son Blake. He was a smart and very hard-to-impress political science major at the University of Denver. Faith spoke to his class one day, and I remember how excited he was to tell me about her. He raved about all the amazing policies she was working on and about how cool he thought she was. I knew then that Faith was someone worth getting to know. Not long after that, I listened to the proceedings to expel Representative Lebsack for sexual harassment, which happened because of Faith's commitment to standing up for what is right. She was becoming a bit of a legend in my mind long before I decided to campaign for the legislature. When I did decide to run, she helped train me as a candidate through Emerge with Hazel. And after I won my first election, I felt so fortunate to finally get to work with her at the Capitol. I didn't really want to leave the House after redistricting. What was I thinking, actually? But with Faith's help, I settled into the Senate. Along with Senator Priola, we had great fun strategizing and passing environmental legislation, and sometimes throwing axes. Unrelated. I will miss her so much, and I'm pretty mad that she was taken so young after dealing with her many health issues with grace and good humor. Rest in power, my friend. Your memory will continue to guide and inspire me.
Thank you, Senator Cutter. Now to offer a reading of one of Faith's favorites, Representative Leslie Herod.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am former State Representative Leslie Herod, and I'll be reading Faith's favorite poem, Phenomenal Woman by Maya Angelou. Pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size, but when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I am a woman, phenomenally. Phenomenal woman, that's me. I walk into a room as cool as you please, and to a man, the fellows stand or fall down to their knees. Then they swarm around me, a hive of honeybees. I say, it's in the fire in my eyes and the flash of my teeth, the swing in my waist and the joy in my feet. I am a woman, phenomenally. Phenomenal woman, that's me. Men themselves have wondered what they see in me. They try so much, but they can't touch my inner mystery. When I try to show them, they say they still can't see. I say, it's in the arch of my back, the sun of my smile, the ride of my breast, the grace of my style. I am a woman, phenomenally. Phenomenal woman, that's me. Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about or have to talk real loud. When you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. I say, it's in the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palm of my hand, the need for my care, because I am a woman, phenomenally. Phenomenal woman, that's me. I thought of what to say here, and I really still don't have words. But one thing I will say is Colorado is bolder because of faith. Colorado is more courageous because of faith. Colorado is full of phenomenal elected women because of faith. Yes. Colorado is Colorado because of Senator Faith Winter. Rest in peace, my dear friend. We love you.
The mark she leaves on the state of Colorado. Please join me in welcoming Congresswoman Brittany Pedersen.
Hi, everybody. It has been incredibly difficult to find the words to honor Faith and to express the gaping hole in what she has meant to us after her passing. And while I struggled to write this, I heard Faith's voice in my head saying, "You got this," as she would always say to me when I was scared to face something difficult. So here it goes. Faith was born in Colorado in 1980. She was a fifth-generation Coloradan, and she was very proud of that. She loved this state, and it inspired so much of the work she did and the life that she led. When she was growing up as a kid and was asked at the dinner table what she was grateful for, Faith would say, "Waterfalls and rainbows." She later pursued that passion by getting a degree in environmental science with a minor in biology, and she would always proudly say that she was a scientist. And she later went on to fight for clean air and water. Faith was raised to be a Catholic, and being the overachiever that she was, she continued to rise in the ranks at the church until she was told that there was not a place for her to keep going because she was a woman. And that's when she went from being a devout Catholic to a devout feminist. When she was going to college in California, she worked for an organization to help women who were unhoused. And she talked about trying to help a single mom. She had a part-time job at a retail store, and she couldn't afford childcare, so the little boy would have to go with her to work and hide in the changing room during her shifts. But even though she had a job, she wasn't able to pay for rent and couldn't meet any of the requirements to qualify for assistance, and was left without a safe place to sleep with her kid. Faith talked about this moment in her work and how heartbreaking it was, and that no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't help this mom because it was the system that needed to change. And that was when her political activism started. Her first focus while attending college was to implement a clean energy policy throughout the entire California university system. She was told that it would be impossible to do. And for all of you who know Faith, when you say that she can't do something, she will work even harder and guarantee to prove you wrong. And against all odds, alongside her coalition, Faith was able to change policies for every state in every state university in California to bring clean energy. And during this time is when she met Mark at a summer job, and it was the beginning of their 22 years together. Once she graduated, they moved back to Colorado, the place that she loved the most. Faith and Mark were living in Cap Hill when she was working for a group called Enviro Citizen. They organized college campuses around clean energy, and she was so excited when she was able to get to meet with the first female president of the Senate, Joan Fitzgerald. And when she was sitting down with Joan Fitzgerald, she said something to Faith that would change her path forever. She said, "Faith, you should run for office." At the time, she had never thought about it before. And so Mark and Faith got married, moved to Westminster to start their family, and yes, also to run for office. Faith ran for city council, and she won her first election in 2007 and became the youngest city council member to ever serve in Westminster. One of her colleagues called her to congratulate her after her win and said, "You know, I have socks older than you." And instead of being offended, Faith was her loving self and brought him a brand new pair of socks the next day. I remember her telling stories about running for re-election with Tobin at home as a toddler and being pregnant with Sienna, having to sit through hearings with her feet up on the dais because she was on bed rest and there were no accommodations for her in her position. She never let wanting to be a mom stop her from also pursuing the career she wanted, working for the issues she cared so deeply about. And she absolutely resented the fact that men were always assumed to be capable of doing these jobs when they had kids, while women were judged for their career choices and questioned about their ability to do their work. The most important title Faith has ever held is being a mom to Tobin and Sienna, and she carried that with everything that she did. Being a mom drove the policies she worked on and the way that she showed up in the world to support others, and most importantly, the way that she showed up for them. She made sure her kids were part of everything that she did and always tried to make it fun for them. They loved to go canvassing with her. They showed up for many of our photo shoots as candidates. Thank you for being my model many times. They would stand next to her on stage when she accepted awards and often came to the Capitol, especially when it was time for Sienna to sell her Girl Scout cookies. I think that she must have beaten every record out there. And some of the most memorable moments that I have of Faith are what she did as a mom. And it didn't matter what we were doing, if we were at the Capitol late, in committee hearings, if we were on the floor late, if we were in another state doing work training candidates. She would always step aside to call and wish to tell her kids goodnight and to sing Sienna, "You Are My Sunshine." And if there was a reason she couldn't do it, she would send a recording for it to be played later. Nothing made Faith more proud than the people that her kids had become. She often talked about her courageous and fierce daughter and her kind and compassionate son and all the journeys that they've had growing up. And she has definitely warned me about the middle school years. But nothing meant more to her than being Tobin and Sienna's mom. Faith loved Wonder Woman. She dressed up as Wonder Woman for Halloween. She had Wonder Woman decorations. And in so many ways, she embodied the superhero. She wanted to take on the most urgent challenges we faced as a world and took on supporting countless people in her life. And because she was only one person and only had so many hours in each day, she trained others on how to step up and do the work and build the bench that we needed to bring the change that she sought. And I was one of thousands who benefited from that. I first met Faith in 2009, and I was part of a fellowship program. She was my assigned mentor. I couldn't believe I got so lucky that my mentor was the Faith Winter. I remember going to meet her for lunch and being so nervous. But as soon as I sat down, I was at ease because Faith showed up in the world exactly as she was, kind, supportive, and real. We talked about our backgrounds and what inspired us to do this work. And towards the end of the conversation, she paused and said something that changed my path. She said, "You should run for office." I immediately laughed and replied, "People like me don't run for office." And she said, "Isn't that the problem?" She was the first person to say those words to me and countless others, many who are here today. She believed in the mantra, "We lift as we rise," and it is something that she lived every day, from mentoring young women in leadership roles to encouraging and supporting people running for office. She was there for us every step of the way. Little did I know that my assigned mentor would later become one of my best friends. I knew that Faith, no matter what she was doing or going through herself, she would always be there for me, and I know that that was felt by all of you. She would drop anything to listen, to help us solve a problem, to power map how we were gonna get our bill passed, or just to be there for someone to cry to without judgment. There was nobody more loyal and dedicated to the people she loved and the causes she fought for than Faith. She was a fierce champion for working families and prioritized legislation that addressed climate change and barriers for women and people of color, including being paid fairly and addressing sexual harassment at work, in the workplace. She bravely came out publicly when our colleague was harassing her and other women at the Capitol, and she always said that sexual harassment wasn't about sex, it was about power and control, and she stood up to the abuse in her personal capacity as well as changing the laws that prevented that accountability. Faith was relentless in her pursuit of a more fair and just world, and she was a badass who got shit done. I wish Faith was here to ask her so many things, including what she was most proud of in the work that she did. And the thing that constantly comes up that has been mentioned many times today is paid family medical leave. She brought this bill every year, whether we had majorities or not, knowing even when she knew it wasn't going to pass, because she was not going to give up until she got it done. And when we couldn't get it done in the legislature, she went to the ballot and she passed it alongside so many of you, including Matt. It's because of Faith that people are able to take care of their newborn babies after giving birth without worrying about losing their job or being unable to pay for their bills. She fought to make sure that if you were faced with the horrific situation of a dying loved one, you were able to be there in the final months. One of my last texts to her recently was an article about the impact that that policy made in the state. She always talked about how women are disproportionately impacted with caregiving roles. And this article highlighted that 60% of the benefits so far have gone to women in this state. The stories encompassed the horrific issues that people were navigating here in Colorado, unimaginable circumstances, and Faith's bill helped them get through it. Since the beginning of 2020, since the year 2024 to last year in July, 193,000 people have received these benefits, and over $1 billion has been paid out. I know that that was a little wonky, but so was Faith Winter. And while her work was a significant focus and she accomplished enormous wins, Faith also had a love for life and adventure. She loved to travel and take her kids to other countries. She made sure that the outdoors were a big part of their lives, from hiking every Sunday together to camping and sleeping in hammocks in the trees. Being outside and loving Colorado was a big part of their life. And when Faith found out about her heart condition, after mourning what it meant for maintenance and having a pump to send life-saving medicine to her heart to keep her alive, the first thing that she said was that she was sad that she could never swim again in the ocean. She loved music, especially female artists like KUSA, who was very important to Faith because of her journey of holding men accountable, like KUSA did. And it was a constant soundtrack in the background of her life through her ups and downs. She also loved Taylor Swift, and she was my gateway to becoming a Swiftie because she took me to my first Taylor Swift concert. I remember how excited Faith was to see her when she came for the Eras tour, and her entire family dressed up as their favorite era when they went to the concert. When I visited Faith in the hospital after she had her bike accident, I'll never forget walking around the corner and having Matt greet me in the hall. And half of his head was shaved to support her and try to make her feel just a little bit better because they had to shave her head because of her injury. This is just one of those countless ways that Matt showed up for her and showed his love. Faith and Matt worked hard to build a blended family, and Faith dearly loved his kids, Ellie and Theo. Managing 4 kids and many pets, all named after food, as you heard earlier, and the parents to go with them was not always easy, but Faith loved her family more than anything, and she was the glue that held everybody together. And of course, the home would not have been complete without her dad, Mike, who was there for Faith every step of the way, as well as her sister, Dawn. Some of my favorite memories with Faith are traveling around the country, training people to run for office, and the time we got to spend together without the noise and chaos of the legislature or the demands of our regular lives. I'll always cherish her free spirit and the trip we took to Austin. We rented electric bikes to see the city, and when we came across natural hot springs and didn't have swimming suits, we did the obvious thing. We jumped in with our clothes on. We shared lots of memories when we had an office together at the Capitol. It was filled with bright orange and blue and quotes from the Lorax. She also always quoted Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I know we'll never forget how Faith made us feel and what she brought to our lives. She filled the world with color, with love and inspiration, and being sad about Faith feels at odds with everything that she embodied. Grieving comes in waves, and it hits us with heartbreak and crying, disbelief and regret, and laughing and smiling. Today is about celebrating her beautiful life, but also a reminder that, like Faith, we must do as much good as possible and bring as much love as we can to the people in our lives in the short time we have here. Because unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. We will remember Faith in every rainbow and waterfall, in every challenge we overcome, and we will see her in her most important legacy, her kids. Tobin and Sienna, nothing will ever replace your mom. But please know that you have an entire community who loves and supports you. We're all going to be cheering you on in every big step that you take and every adventure that you're on. And Faith and all of her love and memories that you shared will be with you in your heart forever. Faith, thank you for all you have brought to my life, to our lives, and for all you have brought to this world. Your love, strength, warmth, and kindness will never be forgotten. We love you, Faith, always and forever.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. And thank you to everyone who stood here today. We appreciate you all and appreciate all of those who have joined us to honor Senator Faith Winter today. Again, in her honor, please make sure you ask a woman in your life to run for office. Or if she's already in office, ask her to run for higher office. Continue to be bold and be kind and to put your colors on. You all look good. But I'm going to let you know the North Carolinian in me is really excited to invite all of you inside on the first floor for hot cocoa and cookies and space to hold one another and share stories and stay connected. For members of the general public, please enter through either the north or south entrance of the Capitol and proceed through security. For you lucky ducks with badges, you can just go up behind me. I'm gonna go inside because I'm cold. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you to her beautiful family for sharing her with us. Thank you to her friends for honoring us. Thank you to you all.
I used to live in the darkness, dress in black, act so heartless, but now I see that colors are everything. Got kaleidoscopes in my hairdo, got back the stars in my eyes too. Yeah, now I see the magic inside of me. Yeah, maybe my head's fucked up, but I'm falling back in love with being alive, dreaming in lights. This kitty cat lost her mind, been looking for stars and sign that I'll be alright. Look to the skies, I found a rainbow, baby, trust me, I know life is scary, but just put those colors on, girl. Come and play along with me tonight. I'd forgot how to daydream, so consumed with the wrong things, but in the dark I realized this life is short, and deep down I'm still a child. Playful eyes wide and wild, I can't lose hope. What's left of my heart's still made of gold, and I know that I'm still fucked up, but are we all, my love, darling? Our scars make us who we are. So when the winds are howling strong and you think you can't go on, hold tight, sweetheart. You'll find a rainbow, baby, trust me, I know life is scary, but just put those colors on, girl. Come and play along with me tonight. You gotta learn to let go, put the past behind you, trust me, I know the ghosts will try to find you, but just put those colors on,